we proceed to the 6th chapter of Moments, Weathering the Storm in Ersama by Harsh Mander. Now, just as you can see, it's all about a storm. It's a cyclonic storm. So, let's see how was it possible, weathering as in how did they really cope up with it. So, when we talk of these different storms, we talk of tsunamis, we talk of the various storms. How do you think people really can cope up? How much do you really know about them? Do find out. Before that, let's find out about our chapter. So by Harsh Mander. Let's know about him. Harsh Mander is an activist who works with survivors of mass violence and hunger, as well as homeless persons and street children. He is the director of the Center for Equity Studies and a special commissioner to the Supreme Court of India in the right to food case. He is associated with various social causes and movements and writes and speaks regularly on issues of communal harmony, tribal, Dalit and disabled persons' rights, the right to information, custodial justice, homelessness and bonded labor. So if we look at it, he actually has a very soft corner for all the people who are going through pain, grief, misery, and all the people who actually, they are homeless, they are hungry, the bonded labor. So a lot of social welfare, a lot of social causes. So salute this person. Yes, let's move further to the plot of our chapter. A cyclone hit Orissa in October 1999. Now here we are talking about, weathering the storm in Ersama. So Ersama is in Orissa. So a cyclone had hit Orissa in October 1999. It killed thousands of people and devastated hundreds of villages. For 2 dreadful nights, Prashant, a young man, was marooned on the roof of a house. Marooned as in he was stuck. He couldn't come from there. He couldn't get down from there. On the 3rd day, Prashant decided to go to his village. He reached there with great difficulty. He found destruction everywhere in his village. He at once gathered some young people of his village and started helping the poor and the needy. This is the story of Prashant's courage in the face of a great calamity. So we shall know at length, we shall know in detail what are the problems they faced when the cyclone came, how did they overcome it, how did they really face that challenge, how did he go back to his village. We are going to know in the story, and trust me, it's really interesting. Weathering the Storm in Ersama conveys the message that when a natural calamity strikes, the members of the community should help themselves. The youth should provide a leadership role to solve the problems of the common people. They should not be totally dependent upon the government to provide help. So, self-help. Now, this is the message coming to you from this lesson. So, when you have any such natural calamity, in fact, the youngsters should take the lead. They should play the leaders and they should try solving the matters there itself. Don't be dependent on the government to come and, take care of the thing. And then, we just keep complaining. It's better we, help ourselves. That's the best help. Self-help is the best help. Of course, the government does play their role, but till they come, we should take care of it. So this is the message that is being conveyed to us. Let's see it at length. On 27th October 1999, 7 years after his mother's death, Prashant had gone to the block headquarters of Ersama, a small town in coastal Orissa, some 18 kilometers from his village, to spend the day with a friend. So now this one little paragraph told you so much about Prashant. So he says, 7 years ago his mother had passed away, yes, and now he was going to the block headquarters of Ersama. That's a small town in coastal Orissa, which is 18 kilometers from his village, from where he stays. And why did he go there? He went to spend a day with his friend. In the evening, a dark and menacing storm quickly gathered. Now see, that's the coastal area. So obviously, you cannot trust suddenly these things just turn up. So there was a dark and menacing, as in a very dangerous and harmful storm quickly gathered. It became dark. Winds beat against the houses with a speed and fury that Prashant had never witnessed before. So, before the storm strikes, what happens is the winds start blowing. Yeah, they blow with great speed. They are like full of anger. They have so much power in them. In fact, it was such a scene which Prashant had never ever witnessed before. For the first time, he came across such a storm. Heavy and incessant rain filled the darkness. Incessant means unceasing, continual, non-stop. There were non-stop rains that filled the darkness. Ancient trees were uprooted. Now just imagine the power of that wind, the storm, that the trees which were very old, whose roots had gone really far, even such trees were uprooted. They were pulled out of the ground. You can imagine the fury then, and crashed to the earth. Screams rent the air as people and houses were swiftly washed away. There were screams in the air. Everyone started screaming. Everyone was trying to get the grip of something, hold on to something, but they were just being washed away with the rainwater, the wind. They had no control over it. The angry waters swirled into his friend's house neck deep. It swirled as in it moved in a whirling motion. You have this round, round, round thing. So in a very whirling motion, it even came to his friend's house where he was, and it came neck deep. The building was of brick and mortar and was strong enough to survive the devastation of the wind's velocity of 350 km per hour. Now you can imagine the intensity. 350 kilometers per hour. So it was very difficult to survive. But this house, his friend's house, because it was made of brick and mortar, somehow it survived. It did not break down. But the cold terror of the family grew with the crashing of trees that had got uprooted and fallen on their house sometime in the middle of the night, damaging its roofs and walls. Now, the house was fine, it stayed, but the problem came when there were some trees nearby. They got uprooted and they fell on the house, on the roof of the house, right? And that broke the roof and the wall. Now, there it was where the family was struck with cold terror. They were terrified, they were horrified. The crazed destruction wrought by the cyclone, as in caused by the cyclone and the surge of the ocean, continued for the next 36 hours. You can just imagine the scene which I just explained to you. For 36 long hours, it went on. You can imagine everything, everyone was nearly washed away with the wind and the rainwater. Although wind speeds had reduced somewhat by the next morning. Now, the storm had not stopped completely. The wind had, slowed down a bit, but yes, it was there. To escape the waters rising in the house, Prashant and his friend's family had taken refuge on the roof. Now, you remember the water had been neck deep. It had come till here. So, to escape those water, the water was continuously rising and rising. So, to escape from being drowned in that water, Prashant and his friend's family, they went and took shelter on the roof. They went and took refuge. They placed providing safety. That was the place for them. They went and took shelter over there on the roof. Remember, even the roof had nearly broken down. Prashant will never forget the shock he experienced at his first glimpse of the devastation wrought by the super cyclone in the grey light of the early morning. Now, early morning, the sun was just about to rise. So you see there was darkness everywhere. little you could see, like, light rays of the sun sort of were there. It was nearly morning. Now, the scene that he saw was the first ever dreadful scene he had seen. It was something nobody would ever want to see, nor witness, nor experience. So, a raging, deadly brown sheet of water covered everything as far as the eye could see. A raging, deadly brown sheet of water. Now you see all the houses, the mud, everything had, just come up. The trees had been uprooted, so the water was dirty, it was brown. So he was on the roof, and from the roof, everywhere that he could see was only brown water. It was a brown sheet of water covered everything. As far as he could see, he could only see this brown water. That's it. Only fractured cement houses still stood in a few places. Fractured cement houses. The cement houses had got fractured. They had broken partly. Some were there, some roof was there, the pillar was there, the walls were gone. It had been fractured. Bloated animal carcasses and human corpses floated in every direction. Bloated animal carcasses, bloated as in swollen, carcasses are the dead bodies of animals. Now, if humans could not survive, how do you think would have those animals, the pets, the stray animals survived? So the dog, the cat, the cows, all the animals that were there, maybe horses, all of them were floating on that water and their bodies were swollen. Their dead bodies were swollen. Remember, they are on the water, right? So obviously when you die, the body gets swollen. So this is why there were bloated animal carcasses and human corpses. It was whole night. God knows when they had died. Nobody could do anything about it. And they floated in every direction. All round, even huge old trees had fallen. Very big old trees also had fallen. 2 coconut trees had fallen on the roof of their house. You remember the trees had fallen and they were really scared. So yes, they were the coconut trees and 2 of them. This was a blessing in disguise. Now the tree had fallen, that was bad. But it was equally a blessing. Why? Because they were coconut trees. Because the tender coconuts from the trees kept the trapped family from starving in the several days that followed. Now what he says is they were the tender coconuts, the very easy to cut or chew coconuts. They were maybe just, yet to be ripened, but yes, they were tender. So he said this trapped family, the family which was trapped on the roof, Prashant and his friend's family, they had nothing to eat. Everything was destroyed. So these coconut trees really helped them. They ate that, they drank the water of the coconut. That's all they could survive on. But thank God they had at least that to eat. Otherwise, even they would have died. For the next 2 days, Prashant sat huddled with his friend's family in the open on the rooftop. Huddled as in crowded together. All of them were together. The friend's family and Prashant. They were there for the next 2 days. Because it was terrible. The condition was bad. Immediately the waters will not go back. The water will not recede. They froze in the cold and incessant rain. It was so cold, it was breezy, and on top of it, they were all wet because of the rain. The rain which was incessant, which was non-stop raining. The rainwater washed away Prashant's tears. It was raining continuously. So if a person cries when it is raining, how can you even make out that the person is crying or is it the rainwater? The only thought that flashed through his mind was whether his family had survived the fury of the super cyclone. The only thing that worried him is, look, I am here, I am stuck here, but I wonder how has my family, the family which is 18 kilometers away from there, how have they survived? Have they survived? Even that was the big question. He could see so many dead bodies around. He says, who knows who has survived and who hasn't. So he was really, really worried, and that is why he had tears in his eyes. Was he to be bereaved once again? Bereaved as in lost a close relation or friend through his or her death. Now 7 years back he had lost his mother. But now he was scared that will I have to face that same situation again? And he was just hoping, wishing and praying that all are safe and sound just like he was. 2 days later, which seemed to Prashant like 2 years, the rain ceased, the rain stopped, and the rain waters slowly began to recede. Recede as in move back. The level started going down, the rainwater was going back. So everything was sort of taking its shape, but yes, with a lot of time. Now, Prashant was determined to seek out his family without further delay. The moment he saw the waters receding, the water level going down, he made up his mind that right now, I need to go to my family and just check on all of them. But the situation was still dangerous. The water had not gone back fully. The rains had stopped. That's why very slowly the water was going down. And his friend's family pleaded with Prashant. They requested him a lot to stay back a little while longer. They told him, please don't take any risk now. Just stay a little while longer. Let the waters still go down. Let them still recede totally. Then you go. But Prashant knew he had to go. It was so difficult for him. Those 2 days were like 2 years for him. He was counting every minute that passed by, and with that thought that I wonder who all survived, whether they survived or not. He was just getting mad thinking of the situation at the family end. He equipped himself with a long sturdy stick. A long sturdy stick as in strongly built stick. And then started on his 18-kilometer expedition back to his village through the swollen flood waters. Now, he needed some support because he would not know what's next in front of him. The waters were still higher. They were still, I think, his waist level. So he took a nice strong stick and he started his journey from his friend's house. The journey was 18 kilometers to his house. And the water was still at the higher end. It was going down, but it was taking its own sweet time. It was a journey he would never forget. He constantly had to use his stick to locate the road to determine where the water was most shallow. So he was using his stick. If it was deep, he couldn't go there, otherwise he would, drown. So he was using the stick to find out where the water was less, where the water was shallow, so that he could walk on that particular path. He had to do that. At places, it was waist deep. It was yet waist deep, and the progress was slow. He had to take one step. He couldn't just walk through. He had to go step by step. At several points, he lost the road and had to swim. At quite a few points, he literally lost the road because the level went a little higher and he had to actually swim in that water. After some distance, he was relieved to find 2 friends of his uncle who were also returning to their village. Then at some point, he got company. He thanked God because at least, ek se bhale do. So he was like, he found 2 friends. In fact, there were 3 of them. Now heading to the village. So he felt a little better because, when you're alone, you don't know what next. So when you have company, at least you're a little safe. They decided to move ahead together. They started moving together. As they waded through the waters, waded as in walk with effort through water. They had to walk with a lot of effort. It was not an easy walk for them. The scenes they witnessed grew more and more macabre. Now, the scenes that came in front of them, they were disturbing or causing fear concerned with death. What were those scenes they came across? They had to push away many human bodies, men, women, children. Now imagine they are walking and the bodies are floating in front of you. So you literally had to move those bodies. So it was a terrible scene to face. And carcasses of dogs, goats and cattle that the current swept against them as they moved ahead. They were going against the current. So, they were coming like this and they had to go like this. So, they had to keep moving those bodies. In every village that they passed, now between, from his friend's village to his village, it was 18 kilometers. So, there were many other villages also on the way, right, in between those two places. So, in every village that they passed, they could barely see a house standing. They could not see, they hardly one or two, structures of a house they could see, but all the rest had got ruined, they were destroyed, they had broken down. Prashant now wept out loud and long. Now looking at that, he started crying. He lost his patience. He lost his courage. He's, imagine he's continuously praying for his people to be safe. But looking at everyone around where nothing was left, he felt even his family was gone. So he started crying really loud. He was sure that his family could not have survived this catastrophe. He says, not possible. The way this, furious storm, this cyclone has come, I'm sure my family has not survived it. Eventually, finally, Prashant reached his village, Kalikuda. He finally, after a long distance, a long travel, he actually reached his village. His heart went cold. Where their home once stood, there were only remnants of its roof. Where the house once stood, his own house was gone. Only you could see the small remaining quantities of the roof. Nothing else was left. So he was like, nobody has survived. Some of their belongings were caught, mangled and twisted in the branches of the trees. Mangled as in severely damaged due to the tearing or crushing. He could see his belongings all around. Some were twisted in the trees, some were caught up there. He could see them. And just visible above the dark waters, they were all floating on the water. Young Prashant decided to go to the Red Cross shelter to look for his family. Now they had the Red Cross shelter. He thought probably he could find his people there. Among the first people he saw in the crowd was his maternal grandma, his maternal grandmother. Maternal grandmother, mother's mother, Nani, right? So that's maternal grandmother, that's Nani. Paternal grandmother, Dadi, father's mother, right? I'm sure we know it. So yeah. So among the first people he saw in the crowd was his maternal grandmother. We